Mountain biking has been growing in popularity over the last few years. The United States even recorded an insane 32% increase in bike imports between 2019 and 2020, and things don't look to be slowing down in 2021. You've probably even noticed a lot more cars mounted with bike racks, new trails being built nearby, and if you've stopped by a bike shop in the last 6 months, you probably found there were more people in the building than bikes. If all of this buzz around mountain biking has you interested in getting out on the trails for the first time, then this video is for you because I'm going to go over 5 steps to get into mountain biking. Number 1, get a bike. If you're going to get into mountain biking, you're obviously going to need a bike. While you might think that any bike will do the job, it's important to understand that not all bikes are created equal. I'm not saying you need to go out and buy a super expensive one, but bikes from places like Walmart have a hard time standing up to the abuse of all but the tamest trails. Most of the big brands out there, like Trek, Specialized, or Norco, sell bikes aimed towards beginners that will be both affordable and significantly more reliable than bikes from a big box store. People buy more expensive bikes because it comes with a better drivetrain, lighter and stronger wheels, and better performing suspension, which are all things that more experienced riders are after. As a beginner, many of the advantages of a more expensive bike won't be that noticeable to you. I'd recommend beginners get a bike in the $500 to $1,500 range, or look on the used market to get a good deal on an older bike that's in good shape. The two most basic categories of mountain bikes are based on the suspension. A hardtail is a bike that has a suspension fork in the front, while a full suspension has additional suspension in the rear. The vast majority of bikes in the price range I mentioned are going to be hardtails, unless you find something used, but I think hardtails are great for beginners. I have a whole video on what to look for in a bike as a beginner and give a few examples of models that fit my criteria, so be sure to check that out if you want to know more. Number 2, get some gear. While a bike is the main thing you need to hit the trails, there's also some gear that's necessary to make your rides enjoyable and safe. First of all, you need a helmet to protect that beautiful head of yours. Growing up, everyone seemed to think you looked like a dork wearing a helmet, but people will think you're an idiot for not wearing one these days. Like bikes, helmets can vary widely in price depending on the technology incorporated, the overall weight, and the style. All helmets will help to protect your head from impacts, but there are some different types. Full-face helmets, for example, are usually used in more aggressive riding disciplines and protect everything including your face and jaw. Helmets with MIPS technology have an additional feature that helps to better protect your head from rotational impacts, which is most hits while biking, so I'd highly recommend your helmet has this feature. Gloves are another piece of gear that aren't just worn for style points. They protect your hands from getting scraped up if you fall and also give you extra grip on the bars, which is especially nice when you're sweaty. Some even have padding in the palms for additional comfort. Unlike helmets though, gloves aren't a necessity and it's totally up to you if you want to wear them or not. I almost never wear them unless it's cold outside, but many people wear them year-round. No matter how nice your bike is, it's still a machine and there are things that can break while on the trail. If you're riding far from a trailhead or would hate to have to walk your bike out, you'll want to have a way to carry spare parts like a tube, chain link, and pump so that if you have a mechanical issue on the trail, your ride isn't completely ruined. There are a lot of different ways to go here, from clever ways to carry a multi-tool inside your handlebars to backpacks or hip bags for a spare tube. But like gloves, it's all up to what works best for you. I usually wear a hip bag while riding with a pump, tube, and multi-tool in it. But if I'm only going for a short ride or staying close to home, I'll sometimes go without it. One other gear category I'll mention is pedals. Flat pedals will come with most bikes, and these are just your standard pedals you can use with any shoe. I'd recommend most riders start with these so they can focus on gaining fitness and general riding skills. Clipless pedals are another popular style and have a very confusing name. Riders using clipless pedals have special shoes that allow them to lock their shoes into the pedal for a more secure feeling that allows for greater pedaling efficiency and control. The counterintuitive name comes from the fact that back in the day, people used pedals with clips on them, which were essentially straps that went over your shoes. When the new style was introduced, they were called clipless because they didn't have those visible straps. I'd suggest you take a look at these types of pedals only after you get comfortable with the basics of mountain biking. Whether you ride flats or clips is a hotly debated topic, and it's totally up to your preference. Number 3, find some trails. Now that you have a bike and gear, you're going to need somewhere to ride. 20 years ago, the only way to know where to ride was to buy a map or book of trails or talk with locals. While you could occasionally find some information online back then, we now have apps and websites dedicated to trail information. My favorite way to find trails is by using Trailforks. Trailforks is an app and website that uses crowdsourcing to map out trails, provide trail condition updates, and even get donations for land management groups to maintain and build trails. It allows you to explore trails all over the world and see information such as length, elevation gain, what routes commonly use that trail, and even where to park. As you look at the map, you'll see that the trails are a lot of different colors. Each color helps you to know how difficult the trail is. Green is the easiest and will be best suited for you if you've never mountain biked before. Blue trails are good for almost all riders out there as they're more difficult than green, but don't require so much technique or skill that it's unrideable for less experienced bikers. I have found though that there is a really wide spectrum of difficulty for blue trails, with some being very calm and others being closer to a black trail. Black and double black trails are more technical and steep than blue trails and have mandatory drops and jumps that require advanced riding skills. These trails are really fun if you have the right technique and the right bike, but until you feel comfortable on blue trails, I'd probably stay away from these. Orange trails are also known as pro-line trails, and as the name suggests, these are the biggest and baddest trails of them all. They're a lot less common than green, blue, or black, but when you see one, you'll definitely know why the difficulty rating is so high. Number 4, find some friends. Riding by yourself is a ton of fun, but there are a lot of benefits to riding with someone else. First off, there's an added degree of safety when you ride with others. If you have a bad crash and need medical attention or help getting back to the trailhead, someone is already there to do it. I've found that I have to be a little more reserved in my riding if I'm solo than with others because I know that if I had a bad crash, I'd be totally reliant on a stranger happening to go the same way I did. Another major benefit to riding with others is that it helps you to become a better rider. Everyone is at a different skill level, and when you ride with someone who is faster or who has better technique than you, you're pushed to try and keep up with them or ask them to coach you through obstacles that you're unsure of. It's one of the quickest ways to become a better rider. Like I mentioned with gloves and gear packs, whether you ride solo or with other people is totally up to you. I probably ride solo 95% of the time and enjoy the solitude of being out on a trail in the middle of nowhere and being able to take things at my own pace. You may be someone who wants to ride by yourself, whether for the same reasons I do, or because you want to learn by yourself to get the basics before you ride with others, and that is totally fine. I will admit though that the times I do ride with others, especially when they're faster or more skilled than me, I usually learn something that helps me to become a better rider. If nobody in your current social circle rides, you can use apps and websites like Strava or Facebook to find local riding groups to meet up with. If there aren't any in your area, go for a few solo rides and don't feel shy starting a conversation with fellow riders you meet on the trail or in the parking lot. Mountain bikers love to talk bikes, trails, and share their knowledge with each other, so finding someone to ride with should be pretty easy. Number 5, learn and practice basic technique. This topic could be a whole video on its own, and it probably will be in the future, but I want to give some very brief tips on riding technique that will make your first rides more enjoyable. The first tip would be to learn to use your gears. As you shift from a smaller cog, that spiky thing on your wheel that your chain goes on, to a bigger cog, the easier it is to pedal. Bigger gears are better for going uphill, while smaller gears are better for downhills and flats. If your bike has multiple gears on the front by your pedals, it's the exact opposite, and a bigger gear in the front will be harder to pedal than a smaller one. Learning when to shift as the terrain changes will make all the difference in how your ride goes. The second tip is to learn how to position your body while riding. When going uphill, you'll most likely be sitting and have your bike in a large gear while you spin your way up the hill. But if the hill gets so steep that your front wheel starts to lift off the ground, sliding forward on your seat even a couple of inches will shift your weight to keep it from coming off the ground. When going downhill and over rough terrain, your body position should be standing with bent knees and arms and your hips pushed back when it gets steep. This position allows you to move the bike around underneath you to steer through obstacles, absorb impacts, and keep your center of gravity low so you don't go over the handlebars. The final tip is to learn when and how to use your brakes. It's common for new riders to start down a steep hill, get scared, slam on the brakes, and get thrown over the bars. Mountain bike brakes, whether cable or hydraulically actuated, are actually pretty powerful. However, they're also designed to have something called modulation. This is the ability to control how much the brake is actually applied and can range from just barely touching to full-on clamping down. By learning to apply the brakes with the right amount of force at the right times, you'll gain confidence to go faster and ride down steeper and more technical obstacles. Don't be afraid to use the front brake, just don't slam on it when you're going down a hill. The front brake actually does most of the work, so if you're only using your rear brake, you'll probably find you're not slowing down as quickly as you need to. The last thing I want to say is to remember to have fun. Like all sports, it can be easy to get caught up in the competitive side of things or get discouraged because you're not as skilled as you want to be. Mountain biking is becoming so popular because it's so fun, and I'm pretty sure that's why you're interested enough to try it out in the first place. So don't get caught up in having the best components, being the absolute fastest, or getting the most air. Those things come with practice and time. I've taken a lot of people on their first mountain bike ride, and I'm yet to have a single one say they didn't enjoy it. And that's why I love mountain biking. It's a way to de-stress, clear your mind, exercise, explore, and have fun. I really hope this list will help you get into the sport and get the same enjoyment I do out of riding. I plan to have more videos like this in the near future where I take a deeper dive into the basics, so if there are any topics or questions you want covered, let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this, please like the video, and if you want to see more like this, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.